Why would a city execute an old man whose main weapon was? Questions? Welcome to the episode. Today, we're looking at Socrates, not the marble statue you see in museums, but the strange human being who walked the streets of Athens, barefoot, asking uncomfortable questions and confusing almost everyone he met. And somehow, this odd man ended up drinking poison because a city believed he was dangerous. So what actually happened? Let's start with the person. Socrates was born in Athens around 469 BCE. His life didn't begin in some elite philosophical school. His father was a stoneworker, shaping marble with tools and patience. His mother was a midwife, someone who helped bring babies into the world. That detail stayed with Socrates. Later in life, he would say something fascinating. He wasn't a teacher. He was more like his mother, a midwife. But instead of delivering babies, he helped people give birth to ideas. He believed knowledge was already inside people. They just needed the right questions to bring it out. Before philosophy, though, Socrates lived a very ordinary life. He likely worked with stone like his father. He served as a soldier in several battles. And accounts from that time describe him as physically tough. He could endure hunger, cold, and exhaustion better than most. He often walked barefoot, even in harsh weather. That alone made people notice him. But his appearance made him even more memorable. Socrates was not considered attractive. Ancient descriptions are blunt, short, broad, with a flat nose, and large eyes that didn't match the classical Greek idea of beauty. Some people even compared him to strange mythological creatures. And yet, people gathered around him, especially young people. Why? Because Socrates did something psychologically unusual. He asked questions, simple ones. What is justice? What is courage? What is wisdom? At first, the answers sounded confident. But Socrates had a habit of asking another question, and then another, and then another. And slowly something interesting happened. The confident person began to hesitate. Their explanations started to fall apart. Eventually, many realized something uncomfortable. They didn't actually know what they thought they knew. For young listeners, this was fascinating. For powerful adults, it could feel humiliating. But there's one moment that explains why Socrates spent his life doing this. A friend of his once visited the oracle at Delphi, the famous place where people asked the gods questions. The friend asked something bold. Is anyone wiser than Socrates? The oracle's answer was simple. No, no one was wiser. When Socrates heard this, he didn't celebrate. He was confused. Because he believed something very strongly. He believed he knew nothing. So he began testing the oracle's claim. He talked to politicians, poets, craftsmen, people known for their wisdom. And again he discovered something strange. They sounded confident. But under questioning, their certainty collapsed. Eventually, Socrates reached a curious conclusion. Maybe the oracle meant this. He was wiser not because he knew more, but because he understood something important. He knew he didn't know. That insight became the center of his life. But it also created enemies. Because every conversation had the potential to expose someone's ignorance, often in front of a crowd. And when young people watched this happen, they loved it. Imagine being a young listener and seeing powerful adults suddenly realize they don't have good answers. It's exciting. But for the city's leaders, it was uncomfortable. Athens had also gone through political turmoil and war. Society was tense. So when people started asking why the younger generation admired this strange philosopher, suspicion grew. Eventually, accusations appeared. Socrates was brought to trial. The charges were clear: corrupting the youth and disrespecting the city's gods. Now here's where the story becomes deeply human. During the trial, Socrates had an opportunity. He could stop questioning people. He could promise to remain silent. But he refused. Because in his mind, questioning people about their beliefs wasn't a hobby. It was a duty. There was another strange detail about Socrates, too. He often spoke about an inner voice he called a daemonion. It didn't tell him what to do. It simply warned him when something felt wrong. Today, we might describe that as intuition or conscience, a kind of internal signal the brain produces when something doesn't feel right. But in ancient Athens, it sounded mysterious, and maybe a little unsettling. After the trial, the jury voted. Socrates was sentenced to death. The method was hemlock, a poison drink. Even then, his friends tried to help him escape. They arranged a possible plan. But Socrates refused again. If he escaped, he believed, he would betray the laws of the city he had lived under his whole life. So he stayed, and eventually he drank the poison. Accounts say the numbness moved slowly upward through his body. First the feet, then the legs, then the rest. And just before the end, Socrates spoke one final sentence. "We owe a rooster to Asclepius. Don't forget to pay it." Asclepius was the god of healing. Which raises a strange thought. Why thank a god of healing at the moment of death? Some people wonder if Socrates meant that death was a kind of cure, a release from the confusion of life. Or maybe he simply left the world the same way he lived in it, with one more question. And maybe that's the real legacy of Socrates. Not answers, questions. Because sometimes the most powerful shift in the human mind happens when certainty cracks and curiosity begins.